آتينا داود منا فضلا يا جبال أوبي معه والطير وألنا له الحديد أن اعمل سابغات وقدر في السرد واعملوا صالحا إني بما تعملون بصير ولسليمان الريح غدوها شهر ورواحها شهر وأسلنا له عين القطر ومن الجن من يعمل بين يديه بإذن ربه ومن يزغ منهم عن أمرنا نذقه من عذاب السعير يعملون له ما يشاء من محاريب وتماثيل وجفان كالجواب وقدور الراسيات اعملوا آل داود شكرا وقليل من عبادي الشكور فلما قضينا عليه الموت ما دلهم على موته إلا دابة الأرض تأكل من سأته فلما خر تبينت الجن أن لو كانوا يعلمون الغيب ما لبثوا في العذاب المهين لقد كان لسبإ في مسكنهم آية جنتان عن يمين وشمال كلوا من رزق ربكم واشكروا له بلدة طيبة ورب غفور فأعرضوا فأرسلنا عليهم سيل العرم وبدلناهم بجنتين ذواتي أكل خمط وأثل وشيء من سدر قليل ذلك جزيناهم بما كفروا وهل نجازي إلا الكفور وجعلنا بينهم وبين القرى التي باركنا فيها قرى ظاهرة وقدرنا فيها السير سيروا فيها ليالي وأياما آمنين فقالوا ربنا باعد بين أسفارنا وظلموا أنفسهم فجعلناهم أحاديث ومزقناهم كل ممزق إن في ذلك لآيات لكل صبار شكور ولقد صدق عليهم إبليس ظنه فاتبعوه إلا فريقا من المؤمنين وما كان له عليهم من سلطان إلا لنعلم من يؤمن بالآخرة ممن هو منها في شك وربك على كل شيء حفيظ
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم إلى يوم الدين. The theme of Surat Saba is the preservation of civilization. How do you preserve a civilization and the way to preserve it and the destruction of civilization? What is the key element of it? And both and the preservation of civilization depends on the acknowledging and showing gratitude for the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So anyway, so the opposite of any civilization that started denying and abusing the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this civilization will be destroyed. And the surah gave us two contrasting types of civilizations. The civilization of Prophet Dawood and Sulaiman, who consistently displayed gratitude toward Allah, and the other civilization is the civilization of the people of Saba. And this is those people who rejected the Allah blessing and refused to submit to Allah's will. So the civilization that provided to Prophet Dawood and his son Prophet Sulaiman, Allah subhanahu provided them, was the blessing Allah subhanahu provided them with so many resources and knowledge, resources. And so Allah gave us in the surah the blessing he gave to Prophet, the key blessing that he gave to Prophet Sulaiman, and the key blessing that he gave to Prophet Dawood first and then Prophet Sulaiman. So Allah subhanahu talk about the blessing to Prophet Dawood He said, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا دَاوُودَ مِنَّا فَضْلًا. And then he started listing, indeed, we bestowed upon Dawood great favors from us. And what some of these favor? All mountains echo with him, that he can hear the sounds of the metal. Echo for him my praise, and so the birds also, he can hear them. وَأَلَنَّا لَهُ الْحَدِيدِ. And then we made iron pliant for him, soft, can soften in his hand. Saying, make perfect, and telling him, also guided him, actually, the knowledge, how to use this iron that Allah made it soft in his hand, to make armors of metallic ring and do righteous deed. Truly, I am all-seeing and all that you do. So, if we summarize the blessing that Allah subhanahu have provided to Prophet Dawood, one, he gave them the gift of hearing the sound and understanding the tasbih that comes from the mountains and the birds. And we saw there so many times, we think everything, even the table I'm sitting, the cup I'm holding, they're doing tasbih to Allah subhanahu, and we just don't understand them. Because I said there is a lot of sounds around this room that we cannot understand. If I turn the TV on, it will pick it up. So the sound there from all over the world exists, but our limitation, which is the blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because can you imagine if we hear everything, we could not, you will be so confused, or see everything, because the same time the TV, the machine that we do, or the phone that's connected to nothing, can see a picture that showed up in China or Egypt or Pakistan or so on. But I cannot see it because our limitation of our vision that we see. The second one, which is interesting, is the ability to soften steel in his hands. And this is, in order to soften steel, Brother Ja'far here, talks about temperature over 2,000 degrees, but Allah can do it for him. And as soon as it comes out of his hand, it becomes solid again. So nobody else can do it. It's just as a gift that he gave to him. And he was able to make this. Allah described to us the special armor that he made. It's from a chain, so he can, because to make a chain or make a ring, it requires a lot of work on the steel. And then why he did it, instead of that forged plates. And I show you a picture here, because the one on the right, or on the right here, it shows the ring type, and the other one is the normal armor that all of the other army used to do, which is a plate. And why? What's the difference? Because if you have chain and rings, it's easy to move and comfortable. If you have a steel plate, it's very hard to move and uncomfortable, in this regard. So, and then also, in addition, another great blessing, obviously giving him a righteous son, which is one of the greatest blessings that anyone could have. Then to Prophet Sulaiman, not only he gave him a righteous son, but his son also have been given great blessing. And what is one of these blessings? Allah lists us few of them. وَلِسُلَيْمَانَ الرِّيحَ غُدُوُّهَا شَهْرًا وَرَوَاحُهَا شَهْرًا وَأَسَلْنَا لَهُ عَيْنَ الْقِطْرِ وَمِنَ الْجِنِّ مَنْ يَعْمَلُ مِنْ بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lists, and for Sulaiman, we subjugated to him the wind. He could control the wind. And its morning, it's غدوها, غدوها شهرا وراحوها شهرا. Its morning was a month's journey, and its afternoon was a month's journey. What it means, that means in order to go from one place to another, it takes a whole month. The wind can do it in less than an hour. So remember, he has a vast kingdom. So by having control of the wind, he could send information, he could send things from one place to another in his. And it does it almost like a mailing service, twice a day, one in the morning and one in the evening. And then Allah subhanahu also, وَأَسَلْنَا لَهُ عَيْنَ الْقِطْرِ, and then we caused a molten brass to flow for him. His father has the iron, here he has the brass. And if you remember, and we talked about this before, when it came to building, when the Qarnayn came to build, the filling for Google Magoo, what did he do? He used the steel and the brass, welded together, basically get blocks of steel and brass. So he giving him this duflu. Yeah. Well, it's what's the verse? It says Zubra al-Hadid. Yeah, and well, qitra, yeah, qitr, yeah, Ayn al-Qitr right here. Well, remember, it is the brass has a copper in it. It's copper and zinc. It depends on the ratio. Yeah, it depends on the ratio. So anyway, but the translation in general, they say Ayn al-Qitr is the brass, but it's right. It's a combination of both, you know. And then the other one also, Allah subhanahu give him control over the jinn. And the jinn has so much power, they can do anything for him. And not only that, because there is a jinn, you think they will listen to Prophet Sulaiman, even if Allah, directed them, they have to work for him. He cannot punish them, but Allah subhanahu says that if any one of them disobeyed him, we will punish him. Allah will punish them. So he can give them order, but he cannot really punish the jinn. And then what they did for him, did this, محاريب وتماثيل وجفان كالجواب وقطور الراسيات. He made for him all of these things that we'll discuss the blessing. What are these things that he made? So if we look to the blessing that he gave, I said, first one is to control the wind that goes to direct them wherever he wants. And then the skill of melt and cast brass, which is qitr, and Brother Akram, it's copper and zinc alloy. And there is so many types, that basically depends on the combination of them. And the melting point also of this is 1700 degrees, which is less than iron. And then control over the jinn. And the jinn used to make for him maharib. And maharib is this, is a place of worship or a tall building, which is very interesting. The scholar actually looked at this maharib because it is related to the tall building, a place of worship. And they came with the ruling that, mosque houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be anything that could be higher than them. So you cannot make a prayer, basically a masjid. Well, it's not a prayer because people pray at home and so on and other places. But I'm talking if you dedicate a place for the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you should not have anything built over it, to it. Which, frankly, it was annoying me when I used to go to Qatar. I go to Qatar and they have the mosque, the mosque is next to the hotel. The hotel is a fancy hotel. For God's sake, why don't they build a mosque next to it? They have it in the garage when people could pray Friday. I said, have a respect at least for the place, particularly they hold the Friday prayer in it, in this regard. So it's one of the things that kept, basically bothering me when I go there. And then the other one they used to make also, this is maharib, which is a place of worship, high places of worship. Tamasil, what do people tamasil? Sometimes people interpret as statues. But actually also tamasil could be a mock-up models. Mock-up models, if he is going to build a new weaponry system, or if they might make a model for him, or want to build a building, they make a model for him. So that could be. It doesn't mean, because the issue is it about, okay, those he built, statues and so on, that solve the issue if you take the same term. And then Jifan, obviously, if he has this vast kingdom, has vast army, they want to eat and drink, then the Jifan is an oversized cooking pots. And it's a very interesting thing in Arabic language, depending on the size, there is different names. A jifan is a cooking pot that can serve over 1,000 people. And then they come and said, the other one, al-qas'a, it is served, 10 people. And then they said al-maykala, it served 2 to 3 people. And al-safha serve 5 people, and so on. So even a different terms for different size of pots, but let's not worry about them. The jifan is the one that means serve 1,000 or more people. So it's very, very large. And then they have qudur, and they also build the qudur. Qudur is a cookware. So you have something to serve in, which is the jifan, and then the cookware. But the cookwares was so big that they cannot have it on the surface. They bury it in the ground. Rasiyat, it means in the underground. So we're fixing in place. So these are the blessing. In fact, it's really funny. I used to have a friend when I was at MIT. He came from Saudi Arabia, and his I don't know anybody lived in Saudi Arabia. There is a group that what do you call it that has a Toyota Al Jamil. He was a son, and he was showing me a book of cooking book for his mother, that she wrote a cooking book. And what she has, she said, like the cookbook, like the meat, like 10 sheeps, this, how many, bags of rice. I said, my goodness, who's going to cook? You want to cook, you want to say, a cup or a pound or something, but it was interesting. So yes, there is people who can make this large cooking, even not necessarily has to be a king like or a prophet like Sulaiman. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directed them and said, "I'malu ala Dawud shukra." Demonstrate now by action your gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is always an interesting one because it didn't say ushkurullah. He said, "I'malu ala Dawud shukra." And then Allah says, وَقَلِيلٌ مِنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. That, O family of David, work, act for thanking me. And then Allah says, but very few people actually, are thankful for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what does it mean, i'malu ala Dawud? Because sometimes people think, oh, how is thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alhamdulillah, 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 shukrullah. But actually it's more than this. It's one of them that if Allah give you blessing, you always have to acknowledge that this blessing belongs to Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted to you. Because Allah gave you a special intelligence or special ability to do business, don't call say, oh, because I'm smart, because of my education, because of this. No, it is still a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He give you this ability to do it. The second one, don't use this blessing against Allah commands. You have to use the blessing, apply it for basically in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if Allah give you money, don't use the money and waste it in other things. All what do? You go visit Las Vegas and do fun. Be sure this is a gift. Allah give it to you and you should deliver it to wherever other places when Allah wants you to deliver it to. So people have to be careful with when Allah, or power. If Allah give you power, it's not to abuse people, but to also, take advantage, obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then this is important also, that guard against becoming preoccupied by the blessing to the extent of neglecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His commands. And do you know where you see this demonstrated? Often enough in the Friday prayer. Allah tell you, leave everything and go to the Friday prayer. But if a person has a good business, then he said, oh, Friday prayer, come the last minute, basically catches the second rak'ah, to think that he prayed the Friday prayer. Why? Because Allah give a blessing. Yes, it's a customers that come during this. Or you have a job that you do and you said, oh, I'm busy with my job. I remember a friend of mine, he doesn't go to pray. And one time we were going to the Friday prayer and he was coming down with the elevator and I said, oh, his name is Khalid. Khalid, are you coming with us to pray the Jum'ah? And he said, no, I'm going to meet a friend. I said, okay, look, if the CEO calls you right now, you have appointment with your friend. If the CEO calls right now and he said, Khalid, I want to meet with you, what are you going to go do? And this is something we really have to think about it, Do we treat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as we treat other people who are important in our life or respect? Do we do this? And if we don't, what is this issue about La ilaha illallah? Wallahu Akbar. What does this mean? Other than words that we utter by ourselves. That's why I asked everybody a question yesterday. I said, do you really trust Allah? Just think about it. Do we really trust when Allah tells us something, do this, and I'm going to reward you for this? Do you trust Him? Or we just say, oh yeah, absolutely, we trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Well, the action has to be demonstrated in that case. And then the other one, don't, if Allah give you gift of money or gift of intelligence or gift of power, a blessing of power, don't make it go in your head, you know, and suddenly you start feeling I'm superior over others, you know, and you look at people down. Don't. And then part of it, all of these are actions, by the way. And then also continuously, you know, remember the great, you know, the blessing of Allah subhanahu and thank him for blessing, you know. You know, one thing is very interesting. How many of us thank Allah subhanahu when I hold a cup and drink? How many of us even think about it? We do it all the time. You know, I told you I have a brother who had a stroke. He got actually several. He was a professor in the medical school. And two things. I'm looking at something that I wrote and I can read. You know, because of the stroke, he can write, but he cannot read what he write. We take this for granted. You know, if you give him, I mean, he can write a prescription, but if you give it to him to read it, he would not be able to read it. And the second part, which happened, you know, I had a stroke about 6 months ago to him. As soon as he come to drink, he chokes. Because the valve, you know, because there are so many things happen to us when we drink to prevent whatever liquid or food to go in our lungs. If it ever there is, you know, there's no synchronization in this movement, the food or the drink will go to our lung and will die, basically. It happened automatically by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that control, and you can lose it. And when they lose it, he cannot drink. So what they do, they have to make basically some incision and put something in his stomach and can feed him, you know, give him the water by this. I mean, certain things that we take for granted that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided for us and don't think about it, you know. Another one, since I talk about the strokes, since we talked about the Sayyidina Dawood could listen to the sound of the birds and the mountains and so on, just the issue of sound, you know, and the way we speak. And I said it so many times, but it's just difficult to visualize sometimes. When I speak to you, you are not hearing me. All what you're getting a wave, you know, that comes to your ear and get transmitted to something, electrical signal, go to your brain and so on. When I'm thinking of saying something, Allah knows it before I say it. Because what happened, the thought come to my mind, get an electrical signal, transmit it to somewhere to let my mouth move to create, you know, basically acoustic signal, a vibration to reach your ear to express what I want. SubhanAllah. And as we said, that this electrical signal in your brain that comes with the whatever I want to say is independent of the language. I used to have a friend, a professor, actually in Texas A&M, and he was a stroke. He had a stroke. And he wants to win, and he stopped working because, you know, what happened, he wants to give the lecture in English. But you know what it comes? It comes in Arabic. His intention to speak in English. But that proved in my mind that the electrical signal is independent of the language. You know, and subhanallah. So if I can capture your electrical signals, I can know exactly, even if, because you don't think in Urdu or Arabic or any, no, you think it's a signal. I can understand exactly what you are saying. Oh, what's it what Mamdouh is saying now? So in that case, you have, can you imagine to do this? You know, so anyway, so just to keep that, you know, that we actually, so many things, Allah have given to us gifts, and sometimes we focus always in materialistic things, but we don't focus in everything that we have in our own body, that Allah controls for us. Yes.
He cannot drink to the mouth. He has a hole in his
Absolutely.
stomach.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Put the water into the stomach and take the water from
Yes.
here.
Yes.
But he cannot drink to the mouth.
Yes. That's
He
what.
tried to put it in the mouth, he starts choking him.
Yes. That's what happened to my brother. That's what he has to do it, you know, subhanAllah. And you know, it is just what is the, who control, can you control? It is just a blood clot in your brain. SubhanAllah. You know, And we take it for granted, everything. And this is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقَلِيلٌ مِنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورُ. Truly, it's, how we're supposed to be the believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'm sure we don't express gratitude to Allah often enough, in this case. And there is, is an interesting account story that says about Sayyidina Umar. Sayyidina Umar was in the Kaaba, and he's seeing, somebody supplicating to Allah, oh Allah, make me of the minority. He said, so Sayyidina Umar said, what do you mean, oh, make me of the minority? What type of dua is this? And the man told him and said, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقَلِيلٌ مِنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورُ. That, only few of my slaves, are thankful to me. Therefore, I want me to be one of those few of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So hopefully we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we would not be of this few, no, we would be of the few, but we would be the majority of the few. Sorry. Yeah. So now, interesting also because, and this is interesting verse, because a lot of time people always worry about, oh, has been, the jinn controls him and so on, the jinn does this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this about to refute all of this argument about the capability of the jinn to do anything or to know anything. Because people go to some people who are supposed to know the future, and I said, well, I have connection with the jinn and all of that stuff. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about this in the surah, that when the Prophet Sulaiman died, the jinn was working, and they couldn't figure out that he died. They couldn't even figure he died, until they said, فَلَمَّا قَضَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ الْمَوْتَ مَا دَلَّهُمْ عَلَى مَوْتِهِ إِلَّا دَابَّةٌ الْأَرْضِ تَأْكُلُ مِنْ سَأَتِهِ. That, that the only way they figured it out, because he was whatever this means, needs a little bit analysis, understanding, in it. What is this minsa'a means? Is it just a stick, And if you look at this is when I said, sometime when Allah gave us something in the Quran, it's supposed to let you think. And particularly if you're teaching a child, you tell him, well, he was sitting here, ordered them, and then he has this stick. He sat down and they working, and then suddenly this bug or insect, ate the stick, and when the stick fell, he fell. And you tell him, does this make sense? We take it, we accept it as making sense, but does it make sense really for a child? No. He said, wait a minute, well, how long was it? How long the stick was before it was eaten? And was it, he didn't have to eat all the time? Nobody cares, he's running a kingdom. How come nobody comes to check on him? I mean, there is a lot of question has, so you can think about, wait a minute, was it really, when Allah make this verse, does it really mean that he was actually sitting there and the minsa is actually a stick, or he comes in because every king has this always, even the khatib, sometime when you go to the member, he will have a stick, staff holding in his hand. He might have come and say, okay, you work, and put his stick in and leave, does his own things, and he died for months, and they never hear they're still working until the stick fell. They say, wait a minute, where did Sulaiman? They figure it out. So you can always make different interpretation of it. And I always said, in interpreting these things is not going to increase your level of belief, or is going to give you a new insight what you should do, a command from Allah. It doesn't impact the Sharia or Aqidah, but it will impact the child thinking. It just let him, when read this verse, let us think about what could be the scenario for it. And that is the important part about it. And in it, it might become also a technology. You can derive, what is this minsa? Who knows what it is? That it could be somebody can discover something and make something would be like this, So, Allahu A'lam. And then, but the whole point is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, لو كانوا يعلمون الغيب, if they would know the future or they know the unseen, they could have not worked all of that in that hard work, all of that time. Yeah. So anyway, this, the civilization of, Prophet Dawood and Sulaiman obviously gave us the civilization of people who were great, have great basically, it was the greatest civilization actually existed. And then they show their gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. The question really is always, you can think about it. If Sayyidina Sulaiman has this greatest civilization that nobody else has, and no kingdom, nobody has control of what is, do we know anything about, do we have anything from him? Any of his buildings? I mean, look at the ancient Egyptian, they still have the pyramids and, all of the building is still there. But the greatest civilization does not exist. Where is it? And maybe the problem in my mind, frankly, it might be the problem with us is the time. We always think that, it's all, because all of the history man knows now that they can discover is 4,000 years. And if we come and say, so Prophet Sulaiman within this 4,000 years, then it must be there. But who knows what it is? Well, when we said that Noah was there, Adam, we said, if we take the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, we said Prophet Adam came, Allah created him and put him on earth about over 65,000 years ago. So what is this 50, almost 60,000 years of history? Is man was so stupid? Or there was a lot of civilization and civilization was just buried under, and one day people will discover it. So it's something I think people who has, want to study should actually search for something. It's almost like, remember, we talked about Qarun min Qawm Musa. Until now, nobody discovered where is his money. Yeah, we have a lake in Egypt called the Lake Qarun, but this lake was millions of years ahead of Qarun. So, but people think, he's buried under the lake. Well, and with all of the technology, there is still limitations on it. Yes.
Of Solomon. It's very small. It's just like the brother Sham. Very small. That's what they're referring.
Well, that's why I'm saying. Remember, I'm probably digressing here from the talk. But remember when I talked about, and we'll go back to it again one time, which when we talk about Dhul Qarnayn, and I said, tell me who is Dhul Qarnayn, and think about it. What is the attributes that Allah provided in Surah Al-Kahf about this person? Because there is no way Allah will put a nickname for somebody and this name does not exist in the Quran. It's just if we just think about it, but we drive ourselves outside and think and look for something else. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about Dhul Awtad. Okay, who's Dhul Awtad? And so we have to look. What's the four Dhul? Dhul Awtad, Dhul Noon, Dhul Kifl, yeah, Sayyid, who is the Dhul Qarnayn? There's somebody else. Anyway, yeah. Dhul Kifl, Allah doesn't tell us what it is. The Noon, the Prophet ﷺ told us when he said the Noon is my brother Yunus. Yeah. And Dhul Awtad is Fir'aun Dhul Awtad. وداود ذو الأيدي Dawood. So we know three of them that we know. Two from the Quran clearly. Then we know who Dhul Kifl and then who Dhul Qarnayn. It has to be in the Quran, but we just have to look to the attributes of them and what's the name of the meaning. We'll figure it out. And obviously, you know what I was leading to by this one. So anyway, so then this civilization, Allah subhanahu, he protected it. Then after this, after Prophet Sulaiman died, after Dawood died and Sulaiman died, then there is a corruption that happened, and that's what will happen. The second civilization is Saba. And Saba is the capital of them is Ma'rib, and Ma'rib still exists, and this in Yemen. And I'm showing you the pictures of it. And Saba, which is Sheba. And we remember we talked about Sayyidina Sulaiman, the queen of Sheba. It came from this place, from the Saba, from Yemen. And then this Saba, the civilization of Saba existed, they said for over 1,000 years, actually, from the 8th century to BC. before, Christian era, and to the 3rd century CE. So it went, for 1,000 years. And the Maghreb and the Saba was known for their ability of two things: agriculture and the trading activities. They prospered because of their agriculture and trading abilities. And the people of Saba were blessed with knowledge of building dams. So even building dams, the people of Saba, which existed during the Prophet Sulaiman, they have a knowledge of how to build dams. And why? Because they have rivers that's coming in. And if then instead of the water being lost, they build a dam so they can cultivate the land for all the time. And then because of this, they have these gardens, big garden. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us, and build this, what you call it, Sad Ma'rib. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, لقد كان لسبأ في مساكنهم آية جنتان عن يمين وشمال. Okay, you have the dam, there is the land on both sides, and you have there's a picture of where is the dam and so on. And actually the picture also of the remaining of, the dam exists. So until now, there is element of this dam, but obviously we know that it's going to be destroyed. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them, كُلُوا مِنْ رِزْقِ اللَّهِ وَاشْكُرُوا لَهُ. Eat from the provision that we have provided to you and be grateful for Allah. And then وَاشْكُرُوا لَهُ بَلْدَةٌ طَيِّبَةٌ وَرَبٌّ غَفُورٌ, that Allah subhanahu is exceedingly is a good city I provided for you, and there is an forgiving Lord. But also not only have this blessing, because okay, you can have agriculture, but obviously at some point you must have trading. So Allah subhanahu provided them with something also interesting. In the route for trade that they have, Allah subhanahu make cities closer to each other to them. So when you travel, remember they're in Yemen, so if they go into the Sham, they are going to go by, say, the Red Sea, but in land which is arid land, and obviously if there is land that nobody there, it is going to be scary distance to go to. It's 1,000 miles to go. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, no, Allah placed for them places, people living there. So they can, any place they can go, they will find people, they can eat, drink, and feel comfortable and safety in their route. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَهُمْ وَبَيْنَ الْقُرَى الَّتِي بَارَكْنَا قُرًى ظَاهِرًا. Allah made it, all of these cities are clear for them. And Allah subhanahu wa qaddarna fiha السَّيْرَ سِيرُوا فِيهَا لَيَالٍ وَأَيَّامًا آمِنِينَ. Travel in it in safety. Travel, you have your trading and safety. They should be grateful for this one. But no, they didn't like. So they did not only, lack of acknowledgement of the gratitude or have expressive gratitude to Allah, but they said, we don't like this, too many people in the way. So they said, فَقَالُوا رَبَّنَا بَاعِدْ بَيْنَ أَسْفَارِنَا. Allah give you a blessing and you rejected the blessing. And you might think sometime, do we sometime do something, rejected the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If you get so comfortable with it, you say, no, I need something else. And this happened, like you remember also with Bani Israel, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was in the desert, Allah gave him al-manna wa salwa. I said, we don't like this one. Let us get onion and garlic and all of that stuff. So sometimes, people actually are so stupid enough, I suppose, not to accept the blessing and enjoying, but they want something worse. So they said, Allah, no, we want it to be, no, make our distance. Let's travel far without having all of those people, that every time we travel, we have people, in the road, on the route for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, وَظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ, and they did injustice or wronged themselves. فَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَحَادِيثَ وَمَزَّقْنَاهُمْ كُلَّ مُمَزَّقٍ. Then we made them a tale, and we dispersed them all over. That's because they rejected that blessing of that realm. How about the other one? Because the other one is their agriculture one. So they also, because of what they have done, the key part of their agriculture was the dam. The knowledge of the dam, build the dam. So Allah subhanahu destroyed the dam for them. And then فَأَعْرَضُوا, when they basically turned away from the obedience and acknowledging the gratitude, expressing gratitude for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah sent to them a flood of arim. A flood of arim, Sayl al-Arim, is a huge flood. And that huge flood destroyed the dam from them. And suddenly the land, it changed from producing good product, it becoming now producing basically a better taste food. That agriculture was destroyed, And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, why did this happen? ذلك جزيناهم بما كفروا وهل نجزي إلا الكفور. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this, they were punished them because of their ungratefulness, and we never punish in such a way except the ungrateful. So showing gratitude to Allah always will be this. And then Allah tells us, they basically brought themselves. And they brought this to themselves. Why? Because they followed Iblis. Iblis wants you to always reject the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or don't express gratitude for him and give you the sense of arrogance that, we did this, we built them because of our knowledge, we're smarter than anybody in this regard. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ صَدَّقَ عَلَيْهِمْ إِبْلِيسُ ظَنَّ. That indeed Iblis did prove true his thoughts about them, that they will follow him, and they followed him, all except a few people, a group of believers among them. There was always, not everybody was corrupt. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasized the point, وَمَا كَانَ لَهُ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ, that Iblis was never have control over them or authority over them, إِلَّا and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, but this we made them so we can know who believe in the hereafter and who is in doubt of it. By the way, here is the word, وَلِنَعْلَمُ مَنْ يُؤْمِنُ بِالْآخِرَةِ مِمَّنْ هُوَ مِنْهَا فِي شَكٍّ وَرَبُّكَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ حَفِيظٌ. We have two words in Arabic, shak and zan. And we both translate as doubt. But actually, shak and zan is different. Zan is feeling that something is true, but you have no proof of it. So do we really believe on the day of judgment, or we do zan of the day of judgment? A belief is also something and so on. Do shak on the day of judgment or zan on the day of judgment? What the Quran said. Say that zan, because you believe there is a day of judgment, but you have no proof of the day of judgment. You believe in the angel, but you have no proof of the angel. And this is why you find what the verse from Surat Al-Baqarah, anyway, is a verse talk about those people who بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يَظُنُّونَ. Yeah, you just look at it, you find the shak is a different now. The shak, there is something to be, but you doubting that it's not true. So the dhan, you have doubt that it's true, it is true, or at least, but there is no proof. The other one is the opposite, that it might exist, but no, it wouldn't exist. That would be a shak. الذين يظنون بهم الذين يظنون, yes. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is why a scholar comes and said the يظنون means they firm belief. No, it cannot. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is obviously different, but no, the zan is just knowing that something is true, but you have no proof of it. Well, but yes, it could be because the people, if people that the jinn believe that the jinn have influence, or this, obviously they believe in something, has no proof of it. But it could be, depends what is the situation. But all what I'm saying, that the word the shak means that it is the disbelief in something without proof, and the zan is a believing in something without proof. It does not mean, it's just, a side issue. So anyway, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, He didn't say they've done, no, it exists, but they believe it's not there. So negative, you're right. So anyway, so when we look at this Iblis, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, that وَلَقَدْ صَدَّقَ عَلَيْهِمْ إِبْلِيسُ ظَنَّ. Iblis wants you to do something, and do you want to follow what he wants you to do, or you don't? You want to disappoint him? He think that he is going to basically you follow him, and this is why I thought this one. I said, when you feel, angry or somebody provoke you, what Iblis wants you to do? You get angry. So if you want to disappoint them, be patient. In this case, if you want, if somebody wants your assistant and say, he's always asking me for help, well, that's what Iblis wants you to do. Then disappoint him. And think about it. Anytime you want, there is something good to do, and then you feel resistance to do it, you know that if you follow, you are following Iblis. That's what Iblis expecting to do. If even people, if I honor my commitment, and it's more beneficial to just forget about it, and if you make a commitment, to honor the commitment, in this regard. Then at the end of the surah, Allah subhanahu gave us this, 4 basically statement. And these 4 statements, comes in is an instruction for the Prophet ﷺ, for anyone who have doubt or harbor doubt about the role of the messenger and obviously the authenticity of the Quran and so on. So Allah give this, and this is the first time when you get this repeated qul, 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 First one, قل إنما أعظكم بواحدة. This has nothing to do with them. And this is an interesting one too. قل إنما أعظكم بواحدة أن تقوموا لله مثنى وفرادى ثم تتفكروا. I advise you with one thing. Stand up alone, think by yourself or with somebody else. Don't get in a group and try to analyze something. Think about it and say, is this man, his companion something is afflicted by jinn, or he's telling the truth? Because sometimes when you get in a group, they can move you to every direction. But if you're sitting by yourself and reflect on something, that's what you do. And that's why al-i'tikaf, when you go to the i'tikaf in the masjid, you're supposed to i'tikaf and reflect by yourself. The most you can get another friend and sit down and try to contemplate. But if you're sitting in a group, you cannot contemplate. You do by yourself. So the verse said, قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَعِظُكُمْ بِوَاحِدَةٍ. I'll give you one advice. أَن تَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ مَثْنَى وَفُرَادَى ثُمَّ تَتَفَكَّرُوا. That you stand before Allah as one or in pairs, as a single or in pairs, and then reflect. And that's why if you want to understand anything, that's what you should do. Should give yourself time, and if you trust somebody, sit with him and do that, the study with him. And then Allah continue the verse, إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا نَذِيرٌ لَكُمْ بَيْنَ يَدَيْ عَذَابٍ شَدِيدٍ, that he is just a warner for you from an impending severe torment. Then the second one, قُلْ مَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ مِنْ أَجْرٍ فَهُوَ لَكُمْ. I am not asking you for any reward from you. I'm giving you this advice not because I want something from you, not because I want to be a leader over you, not because I want money, because I want the influence over you. I'm giving you, my reward is going to come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm just delivering you this, what I'm delivering, the message I'm delivering you. And Allah is witness over me. Then قُلْ إِنَّ رَبِّي يَخْذِفُ بِالْحَقِّ عَلَّامَ الْغُيُوبِ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always send the force of the truth. The truth will always be there. And he is knower of all of الغيوب, all of the unseen. قُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَمَا يُبْدِئُ الْبَاطِلُ وَمَا يُعِيدُ. And then, say, the truth has come and the falsehood has no power. And then to produce or reproduce anything. And then the last one, قُلْ إِنْ ضَلَلْتُ فَإِنَّمَا أَضِلُّ. It is something. If I am at error, I'm going to carry my own burden. And then وَإِنْ اهْتَدَيْتُ فَبِأَنِّي, if I get a guidance, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I am rightly guided, it's because of the Lord who has revealed it to me. Truly, He is all hearing ever near. Then the surah ends with this. And the surah ends with the warning for those now when Prophet ﷺ or you deliver somebody and said, okay, I'm just giving you this advice. You can always, although the statement will always say, Qul, say, O Prophet, but you are representing him now. So if you tell somebody something, you said, okay, here is the message of Allah. I'm just delivering to you the message. You know. And if I'm wrong, it's I'm the one who's going to suffer for it. It's not you. Just study it and look at it. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, okay, if people do not reflect on this statement, do not want to understand, they want to stand and contemplate on it by themselves or with another close friend, then in that case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tara id فزعوا فلا فوت وأخذوا من مكان قريب. That and this is now a warning now. And if you could only see when they are terrified, but there will be no escape and they will be seized from a place nearby. And this is a warning for anybody who rejects. وقالوا, and they will then say, we believe in it. وقالوا آمنا به. Everybody will believe. The trouble with it is it too late to believe. وأن لهم التناوش. We believe, but how can they grasp what is no value now? How they grasp it from the place far away. And they had rejected it before and would cast on the unseen, and they cast slanders on the unseen from a position far off, and a barrier will be placed between them and what they desire, as was done with their kind before. Indeed, they are in perplexing denial. So وحيل بينهم وبين ما كانوا يشتهون كما فعل بأشياعهم من قبل إنهم كانوا في شك مريب. Just as a side also note about the Arabs, just the history. The Arabs, they said, who lives in Arabia are three kinds. They said the Persian Arab, the Arab al-Ba'ida, and this is the tribes. People don't know a lot of the history of them. They cover about Ad and Samud and so on, and we know about them, but there's nothing really. Even قوم عاد, people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد. Okay, show me something from قوم عاد. And people tell me, oh, they exist in Arabia in the desert somewhere, and they have Aramco come and use their, exploration to discover. They couldn't discover a building, on it. And therefore, some people actually come and say, if you really think about Qawm Aad, they are the one who were existing and building the pyramids because of the power that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to them. Anyway, so that is a major, طبعا Egyptian will hate this because the Egyptian wants to say, oh, no, the Egyptian is the one built. How do you know the Egyptian would know Qawm Aad before? Yeah, the ancient Egyptian. So anyway, so this group, as much as we said we don't know anything about the history, about the, what the kingdom of Sayyidina Sulaiman, we didn't discover anything about them. In the same thing for Qawm Aad, we don't have it. Although Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد, there is nothing has been created like them. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also told us about Qawm Aad, that they used to build the factories so they can extend their life. But there is a factory in the life. It turns out that the pyramids was built to cleanse the body from all impurities so they can extend their life. So if you link the two things together, you said maybe they were the one who built it for that purpose. Because the pyramid was never places for barrier. Originally people thought this way. But if you look at the construction, and I think I mentioned it one time before, but it's a very fascinating actually to look at it. The other one is what they call it the Arabized Arab, Al-Arab al-Musta'ariba. And these are Arabs who came from Sayyidina Ismail. It's related to Sayyidina Ismail. And then they are the one who call it the Adnan, and that's what they come from. And then there is other one who what you call the pure Arabs, by race. Who are the pure Arabs? Are basically the Qahtani Arabs. And they are the one came from Yemen. And they said they came there, the chief was, Yajub ibn Ya'rub ibn Qahtan, that's what, and they lived in the place in Yemen. And when Saba, from Saba, that's when the tribe was there. And when the dam was destroyed, they obviously dispersed. Some of them stayed there. They said that came split in two factions. One group, which is Haimar, and they remained in Yemen, that exists now. And the other group called the Kahlan, and the Kahlan was a bigger part of the tribe, and they went, but also they split in different parts of Arabia. Some group of them went to Oman, and some group of them went to the Medina and established the Aus and the Khazraj tribes up there. And the group of them, which known as Khuza'a, they went to Mecca, and they basically drove out the, Jurhum was, if you look at the history of before the Prophet ﷺ and so on, you hear all of this name. They basically drove the all inhabitants at that time was Jurhum, and they drove out and they became Khuza'a there. And the group of them went closer to Syria and established Al-Ghassasaniya. Ghassasan was a tribe closer to the Roman and Persian Empire, in this regard.
So there are many tribes.
They split, but that tell you that they said, okay, it was okay. That means that they came in now as include, and this is why they mixed now between, the people from Khuza'a and the people from, basically the people who came for Sayyidina Ibrahim when he came, and then came was Prophet Ismail, they got mixed there and was in Mecca. But there still was difference between them. And that's why they said during the Umayyad, time, there is a conflict that came between the Qahtani and between the Adnani. The Qahtani came from Yemen, and the Adnani came from Sayyidina Ismail. Although history, has passed, but when people, talk about sect and racism, somehow it doesn't go away. And they said they fought with each other during the Amawi, and that was the cause of the weakness of the Amawi, dynasty, and that's what it fell. And the Abbasiyin came after that because of the internal conflict between them. And what the internal conflict? Because everyone thought he is a better one than the other, And this is the problem. And this is why, this is an amazing part actually. When the Prophet ﷺ emphasized, كُلُّكُمْ لِآدَمُ وَآدَمُ تُرَابٌ, you all came from Adam and Adam from dust. There is no difference among you. We still do it. And people will think about it, You come say, oh, it's so ridiculous. But are they? Are we racist? If you look to your own country, are people really between different parts of the country? They feel always superior than them, it's from this. And so, anyway, اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك اللهم لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت. اللهم ادخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الجهل والوهم إلى نور العلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون احسنه. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك وبطاعتك عن معصيتك وبفضلك عمن سواك. اللهم بفضلك ورحمتك على كلمة الحق والدين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وعز المسلمين يا أكرم الأكرمين. Oh Allah, spread your mercy upon us, shower us with your blessings, increase our knowledge, grant us forgiveness, and reward us with the company of the prophets in the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, forgive our parents and all our friends and relatives who have passed away. Oh Allah, make their graves a garden from heaven and grant them the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, we have many of our friends and relatives who are sick. We have our son Ma'raj, our daughter Aisha Wani, and many others. Oh Allah, grant all of them full and speedy recovery. Oh Allah, guide our children, protect them, and make them righteous. Oh Allah, we have many of our brethren in Palestine, in Yemen, in Sudan, in many parts of the Muslim world who are facing barbaric enemies, unjust world, and complacent Muslim nations. Oh Allah, grant them victory, heal their trauma, protect their helpless, fulfill their needs. Oh Allah, remove their suffering and grant them peace and prosperity. Oh Allah, we ask you every name you have elected for yourself, that none of us leave this gathering, but his pains have been relieved, his worries have been removed, his debts have been paid, his weaknesses have been concealed, his sins have been forgiven, and his needs have been fulfilled. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.